right, ready to go? So welcome everyone to today's webinar, 5 Elements of Old Dogs. It's hosted by Gray Muzzle Organization. So let me tell you a little bit about Gray Muzzle, about myself, and then about our presenter. So at Gray Muzzle Organization, we envision a world where every senior dog thrives and no dog dies alone and afraid. And we're not a rescue or a shelter, but a 501c3 organization that provides grant funding to rescues and shelters specifically for senior dog programs. In 2024, we funded 100 shelters and awarded over $1.1 million in grants to provide dental care and diagnostic treating, to fund for senior adoptions, for hospice care, and to keep senior dogs in their homes that they already have by providing the funds to get them the medication and care they need. We are very grateful for and dependent on the kindness of our donors to help senior dogs nationwide and beyond. Now, I'm Barbara Giannini, and I'm a new GMO board member. I'll be corralling the questions today and assisting our presenter. Now, a little bit about myself. I have 2 senior dogs, a 9-year-old white husky cattle dog mix and a 15-year-old Shih Tzu. Now, I call myself a reformed financial executive because I spent 20 years in various finance roles. But now I enjoy writing romances, screenplays, and rescue dog-themed children's books. So today we are lucky enough to have Elizabeth Ann Johnson present about the 5 elements of old dogs. Elizabeth is an author of Know Your Dog's True Nature, which is up for pre-order now and releases in September. So I'll let Elizabeth tell you more about herself. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Barbara. It's such a pleasure to be here. Gray Muzzle is just my absolutely favorite nonprofit. So it just touches my heart that we care so much for our old dogs. So yeah. So I wanted to get started by asking a question of everyone. Did you ever want to know why your dog does what he does? People have been wondering that for many, many years, and we've done so many studies and ethology work, behavior work, all of that. And I've landed many years ago on the 5-element theory of traditional Chinese medicine. I used it as it's a giant healing structure. So I used it for animals out in the field, meaning like horses and dogs and all sorts of animals, for doing healing. But one of the things that I found out was that people were really interested in the personality part. I would do some behavioral questions on intake, because when we're healing an animal, we need to know who the animal is. What are they all about? What are the behaviors? What's going on inside that black furry box, right? And so what I did was I would tell people about these personality types, these archetypes, each 5-element archetype. And oftentimes on the next visit, my client would come in and they'd say, "Oh my God, I finally understand my husband." And they would be just besides themselves that I totally get him now, or my Aunt Mary, or my best friend, or my coworker. And there were story and story and story of that in my life. Pretty much weekly, I would have at least 1 or 2 that would come up with that. And I thought, wow, I'm actually teaming up with the animals to make the world a better place, because these people are now feeling understanding. They're feeling acceptance for these other humans. They're feeling compassion and kindness, and they get them. So it was a really profound long-term awareness that I needed to write a book. And everyone was asking me, "Are you ever going to write about this?" And I said, yes, finally. And so I have, as Barbara had said. So I want you to really think about what we're going to do here, is really create a lens in a way to see the world. And you're going to start with your dog, your old dog. and they're going to be great, great, great teachers. And then in the book, the second half of the book, we go to ourselves. So there are quizzes and all sorts of great information in the book. It's a fun, lively book. And in that time that you spend with your dog, you're going to be able to see a lot of these elements show forth. So let's go ahead and just get started. We're going to have a PowerPoint. It's going to be kind of a lot of information, but I'll try to put some fun stories and ideas in there as well. So here we go. I'll find my clicker. Oops, sorry. Clicker's not working. Sorry. Okay, so what can the 5-element theory gift you and your dog? So it gives us an understanding of aging rescue dogs' wants, needs, and stressors. And I say aging because, dogs aging can be dependent on breed, it can be dependent on health, it can be dependent in so many ways. Um, and sometimes old dogs act younger than younger dogs. So we're going to look at really all dogs, but we're going to definitely apply it to senior dogs as well. It gives us simple lifestyle measures for support and balance. So we look at some primary element archetypal things with this, and we're going to go through that in the slides. And those are really wants and needs, stressors, and then we talk about support, how to support them during times of stress. And just for your information, all animals and humans have all 5 elements. It's just a matter of percentages. So what we're going to look at really with our dog is I want you to think about their primary element, because that's the one you're going to see the stress response with. And that's going to tell us the primary element. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk about that a little more. 1 or 2 predominant elements will show themselves strongly, typically, and they'll vacillate back. This is a nature-centric healing modality. So what the Chinese did is they based it on nature. And so when we're talking about elements, what I want you to think about, what is the element of wood? What is the element of fire like? What is the actual element of earth like? What is the element of metal like? And what is the element of water like? So those are the 5. So I have a little disclaimer here. This interpretation is not meant to diagnose, treat, or train, but can help us create relationship harmony and well-being in our home. Have fun. So here's where we start. So who is your old dog? So these are the 5 elements. Again, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. They're all related to a season. They have many components in the giant healing system to look at, and I've plucked out some of the ones that will be kind of interesting for you to look at. The star and the circle are just cycles that we can't talk about now. We work with those for balance. One's a control cycle and one's a creation cycle. So that's for a whole nother reference. And so how do I find my dog's element? You find it by using observation. So, we need to start really kind of honing in and watching our dogs. And the biggest way to do it, to look at is, emotions under stress. So how do they react? And those are going to come up in all of our archetype PowerPoint slides. And then we look at health issues too, because that can really key us in on who our dog is. So I have a scenario here. I'm going to just kind of read it and walk you through it. If you can hold yourself and not try to read it. I usually don't put a lot on PowerPoint slides to read by any means. But let's go through this. It's a beautiful sunny day. You're finally ready to visit the shelter to find your aging best friend, to create a life of quiet adventure, snuggles, and companionship. You walk in and see 5 older rescue dogs standing in their kennels. The first dog you see is pacing, moving constantly. He gives you a few warning barks, hops on his front paws on the fencing, only to continue pacing, pacing, pacing. The second dog is at the kennel door, soulful eyes begging to be noticed, full body wagging, and she does a few cute hops just to keep your attention. It feels like you have known her forever, like a magnet you are drawn to this adorable being. The third dog, a bit chubby, is also a full body wagger, but he keeps his feet on the ground and shows his best smiley face. Yet there's a slight worried look in his eyes, as if to say, please, please take me home. The fourth dog is in the back of the kennel, aloof, pensive, and still, moving only his head and his intelligent eyes as if he's calculating his way out. The fifth dog is in the back of the kennel, trying to look small while looking over her shoulder and staring straight into your eyes. She slinks forward and stops, and slinks forward and stops again and again, and then pushes her whole body against the gate while looking towards the back of the kennel, hypervigilant and nervous, but craving connection. So these are just statements about the five elements and how they act under stress. And we're going to go into more detail here. So we're going to start with the wood element. The wood element starts in the spring, so that's really sort of the beginning of potential and burgeoning. We call this archetype the army sergeant or the upper level competitor. These dogs are very, very athletic. They are competitive and they're fast learners. They also, one of the reasons we call them an army sergeant is if the handler is not in charge and makes that known in a good way, in a kind way, then they will take over as leader in your household. So it's really important to think about when you have these types of dogs. Their emotional default. So this emotional default is your key to learning about your primary element for your dog. These emotional defaults are defaults under stress. They move into a stress situation and things aren't going well, and this is what they revert to. And anger is the wood element's stress default. And so anger can mean impatience, it can mean aggression, it can mean frustration. We don't really see anger in dogs, we see it in humans. And just a reminder that this is a human modality, this five element system as well. And we have adapted it, and the Chinese did a long time ago too, into the animal world. So remember, the wood element's default is anything that's a product of anger. The season is spring. So these animals are full of potential. You think about things popping up out of the ground, the magic that happens with a little stem coming up and all of a sudden it's a tree, or it's this incredible herb or something with all this potential to help in the world. So that's really something to think about. And back to thinking about wood elements, they're growing, their leaves are popping out in the spring. They're very rooted in the ground. So these dogs are very grounded. And by grounded, I mean all 4 feet on the ground, know right where they are, what they're doing. And we're going to talk some more about grounding in a little bit when we get to the fire dog. Their sense organ is eyes, and their sense is sight. So they have incredible visual acuity. These are the dogs that will see, an owl flying by at night, or, just really sensitive acuity. This sense organ they have that is so strong, and you can see this dog going over this jump, how brave, how much potential he has, and it looks easy for him. He's just gauged it. All right, I'm over the jump, and so these dogs tend to end up being, because of all the potential they have. They end up being often police dogs, search and rescue dogs, great agility dogs, nosework dogs, that are really successful. They have a lot of potential, and they love competition, and movement is their medicine. So always remember that if you have a wood dog, movement is their medicine. And we're going to talk a little more about that in a minute. Their coat color is often brown and black, but there's a huge caveat to coat color with dogs. We breed dogs and breed dogs to breed other breeds and other breeds and other breeds. And so the color issue has been diluted within the 5 element system for dogs. With horses, it's easier. We typically know we're going to get, a red foal out of a red mare or something like that, and so we can classify them better. But dogs, it's a little tricky, so don't rely on that. Always rely, when you're trying to find your dog's element, on the stress response they have. So issues are tendon and issues, meaning health issues. These dogs get a lot of tendon and ligament issues. They're incredible athletes. And so they push themselves. They're always pushing boundaries. And that'll come up in a moment too. So they push, push, push to get to what they want to do. They're incredible, just incredible athletes. And they often have eye issues. So we'll find that the sense organs will trigger issues as well with each element. They have muscle tension. Um, the muscle tension is because they're just pushing and playing so hard. So their wants and needs, we're going to go through these, are movement. And truly, movement is the medicine for this animal. You cannot have, especially a younger wood element dog, but even we're going to go through the old wood element dog in a moment. They want to be doing stuff. They want to be moving, and they need that for their body to have balance. They need clear boundaries because they're always trying to push ahead of them, and that's how they get hurt. So a handler that gives these dogs clear boundaries, meaning they're, in a training sense or an athletic sense, get as good as you can and keep pushing up to this boundary, and then I'm going to move it here, and then you can go here. So that's what that means. In a household situation, that means, train them on the etiquette of the house, and make sure they will train easy. They're very, very, very smart. And just make sure you're holding those boundaries for them, because that's a stress if they don't have boundaries. Then they become aggressive. Then they go into some really, really difficult things for us to deal with. Challenge is very important. Again, being intelligent, being athletic, they need to have challenges. The stressors are lack of movement. Okay, so we're going to move into the stressors. That's a lack of movement. So these dogs end up sitting in a house while someone goes to work all day and not getting enough movement, and then get a walk around the block. It doesn't work for them. They need more movement. Otherwise, they get stressed. And then what they do is they end up either hyper protecting the house, hyper protecting the human, being aggressive to other dogs. So there's really some importance to, really giving this animal exercise. It's not one for an old wood dog is okay for, a 75, 80-year-old person, but a young wood dog is not always the best match for that. Inconsistent boundaries is a stressor for them as well, as we just talked about. And here's the stress balancers. So consistent boundaries, they like that. They just want to know, where's my boundary? And that's in a myriad of ways in your life with them. Clear leadership. So be a clear handler. They will teach you a lot if you're not, and they will ask for you to be a clear handler. Challenging and varied work. That's because they're so intelligent and athletic. So supportive therapies for them are massage, acupressure, swimming, movement, adjunct herbal support. So with the first four, that is obvious that these animals as athletes, yes, they really do well with massage. They really do well with acupressure, balancing out the rhythms of the body. Swimming, if these animals get hurt, because remember, tendons and ligaments are one of their Achilles heels, basically, literally. When they need to recover from that, they still need movement. So if they have a stifle injury or some sort of tendon, ligament injury, muscle injury, um, then they need to have some form of movement during that time. So swimming is a non-weight bearing form of movement for them. So it's good to teach these dogs, get them around water just for the future if you have a young one. If you have an older one, it's great for them too because they're not working so hard. So teach them early to like the water, swim. It's really, really good for them. Um, Adjunct herbal support is interesting, and this took me a while to figure out in my practice. Uh, I used to do a lot with herbs and animals, and what I discovered was that the wood element animals would heal fast from herbal support. And I started thinking about it. Well, herbs have, many herbs have a higher potency in the spring. And these animals have a higher potency in the spring. So things are activated, and the herbs, the medicinals in the herbs are activating. So I think there's just a beautiful synergy between herbal support and wood element animals. I think herbs with the qualified practitioner are great for all animals, as long as they're managed correctly. But for these dogs particularly, I really like the herbal support. So our life lesson with them: stay clear-headed and fully connected to avoid power struggles. Here's our old wood dog. This little guy trying to run across the field. Their stressors for as an old wood dog is physical limitations because they still want to move. They still want to challenge. They still want to be athletic. And that's a stressor for them. They're like, oh God, I can't do what I used to be able to do. And I think in my little gray hair, I kind of recognize that too. Um, Boredom is a big thing for them. So keep the brain stimulated, highly intelligent archetype here. So keep the brain stimulated. However, whatever that means, teach them some tricks, there's so much we can do now with these animals that's out there for us to have fun and help keep them balanced. These are support mechanisms for them. Um, Lack of movement, obviously. So swimming is a good one. And I think that's important to really integrate, especially for the wood dog. So response to stressors. Here we go into the anger indicators, right? Grumpiness. They get kind of grumpy. I've had numerous old wood dogs, so I know they get kind of grumpy and they're frustrated and they have stiffness and they have apathy. And the apathy is sad because that's kind of like they're almost giving up, like, oh, I can't do anything anyway, kind of thing. And it's kind of sad to see these dynamic individuals in that space. The stress balancers are, and this is really important, frequent walks in both familiar and new locations. And here's the key: while tapering duration and increasing frequency. Increase how many walks you give them, but just go shorter. And one of the things that does is, let me get through this really quick, sorry. One of the things that does for these dogs particularly is it stimulates the sight-brain connection. And remember, their sense organ is their eyes. And so the more places you can take them, and the more they can be outside watching birds fly by, watching cars, watching trees move, squirrels climb a tree, all of that helps a slow cognitive decline down. And this is across the board for every archetype, every element, every dog, I truly believe. It's really important for them. But for these guys, for the sight reasoning, because they're so strong in their sight potential, you want to really keep that stimulated. And you can do that with these frequent walks in both familiar and new locations. Um, and you just do less duration in the walk and more frequency of walks. It's good for us too. So just remember that he's helping us out. So the life lesson from our old wood dog, gently treat him like the warrior that his heart still is, with respect, partnership, and plenty of genuine awestruck praise. So these dogs love soft praise. I've worked on many police dogs, search and rescue dogs. And when I watch a good handler with a police dog, particularly, or a military dog, they they give these dogs soft praise. They're proud of them and they go, "Good dog, good dog." It's not a "Woo party and good job," you can do that when you're playing, but when there's training time or for an old dog, when you're teaching him a new trick, he's working at that point. These dogs are potential working dogs, and they will create a job if they don't have one. So give these little old guys a job, and give them that wonderful praise that comes from your heart, not just your head and your mouth, but from your heart where you go, "Good dog," and they know, like, "Yeah, I did a good job." It's really kind of a special way to be with them. So here's our fire dog. And the fire dog archetype is a party animal or a diva. They're extremely social, they're very friendly, and they have what I call charismatic magnetism, which means that you are drawn to these animals. These are the animals that are across a parking lot and you see them and you kind of glance at them and they go wiggle, 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 wiggle. And you look away and then you go, "Oh, I gotta look at them again. Oh, wiggle, 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 wiggle." And they're so happy to see you. And it's like, they just want you to come over. And before you know it, you're sort of drawn over to that dog. You're talking to the owner and you're petting the dog. And you feel like you've known that dog forever, and they act like they've known you forever. And that's a fire dog. They bring smiles and joy and spread it all over the world. They're always sprinkling good happiness. And they love attention and they love to be adored. So I always say, when we do walks with these dogs, do adoration walks. So let them go and talk to people and have the people go, "Oh, you're so cute," and they love that. Not every dog loves that. And again, the social aspect is really, really important. These are often the dogs that get separation anxiety because they're left alone and they either need to be with a bonded animal in the household or a person going everywhere and getting what they need for their balance. Their emotional default is a little tricky here, and I'm going to move through these slides a little faster now that we got through the wood and you can see the pattern. Um, the emotional default is excess joy, which sounds like a really good thing, right? But excess joy in anyone's body, way too much joy, just overloads the system. And we call it in Chinese medicine a disturbance of the Shen. And the Shen is the mind, body, spirit. And we want that balanced all the time. So excess joy can create something similar to a panic attack. And I often think about the old time movies where the star is like a diva star and she goes, "Oh," and she faints. And these dogs get so stressed and they get overexcited, like in dog parks, and they're playing and they're playing and they're like, and the next thing you know, they have this sort of aberrant stress behavior. So, or something happens that creates a lot of emotion in a household, a lot of stress, and these dogs, they vibrate with that emotion, and it's really interesting to see that. Um, the season for them is summer. Summer's supposed to be a hot season, getting hotter all the time, as we know. And these dogs don't do well in heat. That is a stressor for them. So it's interesting that they're a summer dog, but so we need to really be conscious about keeping them in cool places. Their sense organ is the tongue or speech, and I've had many people call me out of the blue and say, "Why is my dog licking me all the time?" And we go through all the normal reasons why a dog would lick you. You know, you have something on your hands, you're sweating, or whatever. But these dogs are lickers because their sense organ is their tongue. And so if you get a dog that wants to lick you all the time, you probably have a primary or a secondary fire element. Speech is another one. So they can't bark without a tongue. We can't speak without a tongue, really. And other than with our hands, of course. But these dogs will be the ones when someone comes to your door, they're at the door and they're barking. They're just barking, 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 and there's just no way to kind of stop that. So they do have a lot of vocalizations. Their coat color is often red or red-white combos. Again, coat color is not always accurate with dogs. But you think about red is fire is kind of red orange. So potential issues for these dogs are skin disorders, nervous stomachs, because they do stress, heat issues, and so keep them cool, and inflammation. And heat and inflammation go hand in hand. Give them foods that are non-inflammatory for them. I love this little guy. He's so cute. Um, Wants and needs, social stimulation, adoration, touch. They love touch. These are the cuddlers, the mega cuddlers. They need a grounded owner. So with grounding, the best way, if one of your dogs has a panic attack or a disturbance of the Shen, excess joy, you can't run over and be all excited and quiet them down. You have to ground yourself, and you have to take all of about 2 seconds to connect your brain to your feet, feel your feet on the ground, take at least one deep breath into your belly, and then go get your dog out of the fray of whatever it's in, because these guys can be really interesting like that. And so be a grounded owner for this dog. If you see all the excitement starting at the gate um, for the dog, I'm sorry, I'm losing my words here. Going into with other dogs or going to obedience class or going to anything, a veterinarian, do that. Just brain, feet, breaths. Just ground yourself. And the dog will feel that. They're very highly sensitive. Fire elements are very sensitive. So they'll feel that and they'll ground themselves. Stressors are chaos. They don't like all that chaos. Being alone or separated from bonded animals or people. So that's separation anxiety and heat. Those are their stressors. So the stress balance, those are the things that can tip the scale on the excess joy, the disturbance of the Shen. The stress balancers are physical, emotional contact, adoration, adore this dog, let everybody adore this dog. They will be adored. Coolness is really a good stress balancer, taking them to a cool spot, turn your AC on in the car if you're in the car with them, and a calm, grounded person or animal. Supportive therapies for them are massage. Remember, they love touch. They just love it. Calming acupressure points. Hook up with someone that you might know in your area that does animal acupressure, or take some courses for yourself and find the calming points. I'll show you one right now that is excellent for these dogs because it takes what we call the heart fire out of the animal's body, disperses it. And it's right between our eyebrows here and their eyebrows, basically. And there's a little spot right here. Make sure you can see this right in this region. And all you do is you either hold your finger there quietly or you just rub it. And this is called yin tong. And it's particularly for that heart fire that creates the disturbance of the shen. And you'll see these animals start to go, and they'll just settle right down. It's a wonderful, wonderful calming point. Cooling foods for these animals, such as turkey, duck, rabbit, and whitefish. You can learn lots about the temperatures of foods for a dog that is heat sensitive, and how that can, create all sorts of problems in the body with allergies and inflammation. Dr. Judy Morgan has a book out, and you can look her up, and it's about if anyone makes their own food for these dogs. And sometimes with these older fire dogs, that's really, really important to keep them balanced and healthy. You can find some information in her book, Judy Morgan, DBM. Our life lesson: to learn emotional quietness in the midst of drama. So that's what these dogs teach us. Here's our old fire dog. Stressors are similar: being alone, lack of social contact, and adoration. So these dogs get left behind when they get older, right? Because they're hard to get in the car, especially if they're a big dog like this guy. Um, and that really is a stressor for them. They still need that. Heat, of course, chaos, and big household changes. And I want to just put a plug in here for the big household changes. Sometimes we have to move out of our house, right? And so it's extremely stressful for older dogs that are starting to lose their senses. So hearing, sight, smell, even touch. They're losing some of those sensitivities. Um, and suddenly they're in a new place. So these dogs don't always respond to big household changes. The earth element, our next dog, is the same way. Um, and and I think it's important to consider that household changes also mean family members leaving, kids going to college, you know, things like that, moving their food bowl or their bed when it's been there for all those years, things like that. So really be conscious of that for these old fire dogs. It's very, very important. Their stress balancers are give praise for anything and everything. They love the attention. They love the praise, and they need the attention for sure. They really require a lot of attention and love. Numerous short adoration walks. So again, tapering duration and increasing frequency, but these are adoration walks. So walk this dog through a little town where people can say hi to him, or take him into your farm store or the Walmart. So many stores allow people to walk in with dogs now, and they can meet people, they can see people. It's really important for them. Include in daily life and errands, cool areas for rest, of course, are stress balancers, and share touch often. They want your touch. They love it. They're just hams like that. They're so easy to treat, these dogs, because they just think they're getting, all this love in, and they are. So, your old dog life lesson: carry love in your heart and spread it everywhere, even if it makes you a little crazy sometimes. You will touch many, and they will always remember you for it. And that is the truth, because I still have people asking about some of my fire dogs, like, oh, I really miss Sage, or I really miss Louie, that just these animals touch people's hearts like crazy. Here's our earth dog. So this is a quintessential caregiver. These are the kid-loving dogs. They're kind, they're gentle spirits, they're patient, they love everyone. The emotional default for these guys is worry, and worry can turn into obsession. And so we need to notice when these dogs get stressed, big household change. What are they doing? They're worrying. You can see the worry in their eyes, and they might start weaving, or they might start doing something that's really obsessive, continually asking for food, 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 because they are foodies too, mega foodies. But watch for worry. Worry can be something to miss, but if you pay attention, you can see it. Season is late summer, and that's like our Indian summer. We just are going into the earth element time now. We just started about probably a week ago, and or last week, I should say. So late summer is their season, and their sense organ is mouth and taste, right? And they are definitely foodies. We're going to talk a little more about that in a minute. Um, so that's important to know. Their coat color is often yellow, tan, or cream, or any color that looks chubby, because these dogs gain weight by looking at food. And that's really important for older dogs, particularly for their ability to move, to be healthy. It's really important. These dogs get digestive upsets, they get dental issues often, and they get growths and fatty tumors. So that's, fatty tumors can happen from from lack of a really good food, from, feeding inexpensive food that's not good. But these dogs are more prone to fatty tumors and any kind of growth than most dogs. So even if they're eating good food, they may end up with some fatty tumors. Weight gain is uh, is rampant with earth elements, gas, bad breath, so all these digestive things. We say stifle injuries because I'm not talking about the organs today, but the organs, spleen and stomach are the earth dog organs, and they run right down the edges of the stifle, which is we sometimes call it the knee in the back, in layman's terms. But that stifle is where like the CCL ligament can get stressed, and these dogs can get it because they're overweight. They might take a run, and they've got imbalance in those two meridians right there, and bink, something pops. So they are prone to stifle injuries. Hind end weakness due to weight. So they can get very weak with their hind end because they're overweight, and it can cause back problems and all sorts of things. Their wants and needs, truly, the number one is food. They will drive you crazy for treats all day long and want food. They have a clock that is like, Mom, 5, it's 5, and that's when I feed." Or, "Now it's 2 minutes till," because one time I missed and I was late, and so now it's 2 minutes to 5. So, they're very routine based. They like comfort, they like praise, all kinds of praise, loving praise. They like the routine-based lifestyle. So routine can be a stressor for them if you go off of their routine. So, I definitely notice when if I'm doing something and I can't feed for a half an hour, Wilbur's just like, I have an earth element right now, Wilbur. Looks like this guy. Wilbur will definitely let me know, and you can see him getting worried, like, "Oh no, I'm not going to get my food," where other dogs just look at you and go, "Oh, okay," and they go lay down and they wait. But these dogs don't. Um, they also want a peaceful home atmosphere, so that's really important to them. They like peace. They like quiet. They like sitting out in the grass with you and watching and smelling and seeing everything go by. Um, They actually love a lot of company. They like family, and they like, more animals, and they like people. They love it when people are coming over. The earth element in a human, form is that big, wonderful person you go to for a squishy hug, or is always saying, "Oh, come on over for dinner," or "Oh, come on," and those are earth elements, and we gravitate towards those people because 'cause they're so generous with themselves, and the dogs are the same way. The stressors are lack of routine, complicated requests, so these are not fast learner dogs. They're big difference from a wood dog. However, pardon me, um, they have a great memory, which is so fascinating because you can try to teach them something, and then a year later, and you don't think they got it because they're not paying attention, but a year later they do that request for you. And it's like, "Oh, you knew this all the way all along." So I always think of them, again, to go back to the nature element of Earth. I think Earth has a long memory, right? It has an incredible memory. We're always surprised with more things we're learning about Earth because it has such a long memory, and it pops out things here and there, and we find archaeological digs, or we find this or that. Um, and it's fascinating, and I feel like these dogs that are earth elements are so related in that sense of the way that they learned. So complicated requests are not very good for them, but if you give them enough work on one particular command that you might need, maybe a household etiquette thing, they will eventually get it. So be patient with them. And a stressor is an expectation of mental quickness because that makes stress for you and it makes stress for them. And it's not a good stress to have. Stress balancers are touch. They love to be touched. Peaceful environment, comfort, animal and children buddies. They just love it. They love the goats, you name it, horses, goats, chickens. They'll be, just kind of taking care of all of them in their own way. Supportive therapies for them are diet considerations. I consider that number one for the earth element because they can have digestive systems that don't metabolize very quickly. So I think that's really important to make sure they're getting good food, right? The right quantity of food is huge. Low household stress because they worry, right? If you're a worrier, and you worry about things and you get household stress, you know how that feels. Regular routine of exercise, they are not like excited about exercise very often. They might want to play a little and then they're done. So we need to keep them on a regular routine of exercise for their health. Herbs are enzymes, so for digestion. So enzymes for digestion are really recommended for earth dogs, I think, because it can help with the digestion and it can help process the food. So find some enzymes. There's Glacier Peak Holistics in Montana has a nice enzyme. Dogs Naturally, which is in Canada, they have a great enzyme. There's not a lot of them out on the market, but don't get one with a bunch of fillers. Just get one. Those two are clean. Um, and so get one of those and just feed that regularly to them, especially the older earth element dogs. Super, super important. Massage and love. They love that. Our life lesson: slow down, be grateful, and notice gentleness. Be friendly. And these dogs are friendly. They're just basically friendly. Here's our old earth dog. So stressors, the same: being alone or separated from family members, lack of routine, household change or stress, inconsistency in feeding time. So old dog doesn't change. They pretty much stay the same with all of those stressors. Stress balancers, spend quiet time with them doing nothing. As they get old, don't have these dogs just lay in the house all the time and kind of by themselves. Take them outside. They love being outside, and just let them sit on the grass with them. It's one of the kindest things you can do for both of you, for yourself as well. Um, Belly rubs, they love belly rubs. They're all, digestive related. And a lot of dogs love belly rubs, but these guys really will, roll over and go, okay, get the belly. Um, Keep feeding and exercise on a regular routine. Very, very important for the old earth dogs. Healthy, low calorie treats. So find low calorie treats. And what I tell people is, if you happen to get a young or middle-aged dog and you can, most of the time, earth dogs eat vegetables and blueberries and all sorts of things. So utilize those when you can for treats, just something to fill that belly so they feel like they're getting what they need. Um, but not anything that's got junk or sugar or, any of the nasties in them. And veggies and fruit are very low calorie for us, so it's a really good thing to try to integrate if you can. Eliminate or mitigate any potential situations for worry. Not always easy, but try it. If for some reason, say you and your husband are having an argument or something, go do it in the room behind a closed door. The dog's still gonna know, but they're gonna, or go take a walk and discuss your issues. These dogs get really sensitive to that kind of stuff. They start to worry, and then the cascade of ill health falls in. Praise for every effort to exercise or move as they age. So praise, praise, praise that, because they don't really want to move a lot when they're older. They just kind of want to go from spot to spot. So make sure you praise it. Give the low calorie treats with it when you're going to go for a walk. You're getting them geared up to go for a walk. It helps. Old dog life lesson: be supportive and patient for slow and steady steps towards a lifetime of dependability and love. These guys are just lovers. So here's our metal dog. These metal dogs, we call them the librarians. They are extremely intelligent, methodical, sensitive, and they have clear focus. They're purposeful animals. Always remember that. If your dog is always looking for a purpose or a job, this is the dog. This is a metal dog. They will find jobs if they don't have one. They will make a job, and sometimes that's not always the best thing. So very important. They're to remember they're purposeful. Their emotional default is grief. And grief's another one of those things in a dog that sometimes is hard to see. And grief is similar to apathy. And I think that when these guys grieve, because they bond deeply and they learn to trust, but they don't bond a lot with a whole lot of other animals. Like, they're not social. They're like a librarian. If we think of the librarians of old, they didn't really want to talk to you, but they were super smart. They knew where everything was. They guided you to things, and they were very purposeful in their work. But they didn't really want to sit and talk about Aunt Mary or anything like that. And so these dogs are the same way. They're not super social dogs. They don't really need or enjoy touch. So that's an interesting thing. And they're just really great working dogs. The two working dog classes here that are really good for, more working dogs that need to use their bodies instead of not like sight dogs, but working dogs that really need to work out in the field and do search and rescue. This is a great dog for search and rescue. Their sense organ is nose, so they have even a better nose than most dogs and with smell, and they really need to work. I was in South Africa last year, and there's a fellow who does a wildlife work there, and he is often in a helicopter, and he has a little Jack Russell Terrier that goes everywhere with him. Has been on a bazillion helicopter rides, has seen every wild animal in South Africa, and works with them right by his side the whole day. And that dog is one of the happiest Jacks that doesn't get himself into any trouble that I've ever met. So season is autumn, so that's coming up after the earth element. Coat color, often gray, white, tan, rusty, but they're often lean and muscular. You know, they're because they do push their bodies and push the boundaries of their body to get their purpose done. Skin and respiratory and leg issues happen with these animals. The leg issues primarily because they are very aggressive with their work. Constipation can happen, and that has to do with the organs related, but these dogs can get constipation, and immune issues. Their wants and needs are to work, to have a purpose, mutual respect, and to trust their handler. These are dogs and humans that if you breach trust with them in any way, they will either never trust you again or take a long, long, long time to learn to trust. So trust is a really pivotal thing. And you know, in the old dogs, when you're adopting an older dog, you have to kind of watch that if you have a metal dog. Like, what are his trust issues from prior lives? And how do I manage those? And how do I make those right for my relationship with him? Stressors are commotion. So these dogs love to be out and busy, but they don't like dog parks. They don't like a lot of crazy commotion. It's just not their thing. Over sentimentality, they don't like that either. Like, oh, you're a good dog, just say, hey, buddy, good job. Because they don't do the over sentimentality. Um, and touch can be a stressor for them. It's they don't walk up to another human and ask for a pet. They stand by your side and do their job. So if a person reaches out a hand, they might not want to be petted. Um, so that's those kind of dogs. And I know we've all seen them, but they're more likely we see the ones that are more friendly with us. Loss is a stressor, as we know, loss of a bonded animal in the house or loss of a trusted handler for this dog, meaning like, he's a rescue dog. Something happened, he lost the handler, he got transferred to somebody else, he's gonna grieve that handler. And they grieve by going off into another room. They do this for two reasons. They grieve by going off into another room and just sleeping by themselves. They also go into another room and sleep by themselves for recovery. So if they are working or out and there's been a lot of commotion, or something, they worked really hard, they don't come in and lay around you. They go find a place to hide and lay down, kind of like a cat sometimes. Response to stress is they internalize stress, so that's where they go and they hide and they just let all of that go. um they can get irritable. With grief, you can be irritable. Rigidity. So they can get rigidity in their body and rigidity in their behavior. And if you think about metal, to go back to the element itself, metal is not flexible. Metal is rigid. Metal is, it's purposeful. It does incredible things. Our metal in the world builds all sorts of things. So it's got a purpose. And so these animals are the same way. And I think if, as we go through this, if you always go back to that, thinking about the element itself in nature, then you can kind of see some of the things that sort of fall out for these dogs. Stress balancers are quiet time alone. He likes to go do hide, do the hide. Routine work, so they need a job. Make a job somehow, whether it's going over to deliver cookies to your neighbor, every couple days, or who knows. But they need a job. Correctness from handler is really important because they are highly, highly intelligent. Think of the librarian, very, very, very smart, got a computer brain. And they, if you mess up, they're like, no, you didn't ask me that right. You didn't ask for that right. Uh-oh, I'm gonna not trust you now. So that this dog keeps you very honest and very solid in how you manage them. Supportive therapies often does not desire touch, but in time can be coaxed to accept acupressure or energy work, light touch work. These dogs don't always like being massaged. They kind of sometimes or they ignore us when we massage them, or they just sit there and they just go, "Oh, okay, here's my here," kind of thing. They're not really like some dogs that are going, "Oh, this feels so good." Um, Quiet space to recover they need. That's a wonderful therapy, and give them that. Don't try to drag them out when they want to relax in their room. Doggy yoga and stretches for flexibility. Because remember, metal's not very flexible. This dog's not very flexible. So, my dogs, I do qigong and yoga, and my dogs come and they sit right underneath me and they get in the zone. And they often do a bunch of downward dog stretches. And as I'm starting, they're stretching, and then they lay down and they get all that good energy in them, off gassing from me. So do that. Bring your dogs in on that, and they'll appreciate it. Life lesson: do our best to be as competent and committed to training and bonding as this hardworking, loyal dog needs. Here's our old metal dog. Stressors are lack of order and quiet in the household, boredom, no purpose, no job. So they've retired. What are you going to do with them? You have to do something. So the stress balancers are the calm atmosphere, a quiet place to rest. But downgrade your work requirements and give him a job. Take him everywhere with you. If he had a job with you for for something, maybe he's actually some kind of therapy dog, put him in the car with you. Just take him with you and he'll think he's working. Old dog life lesson: don't over sentimentalize your reactions to his aging. They don't like that. Like, these guys are smart and sensitive. They're like, just leave me alone, kind of. Don't over sentimentalize it. Respect his way of bonding and his slowing down. His loyalty, inner sensitivity, intelligence, and independent nature, they're very independent, will guide you in his care. Okay, last one here. I'm going to move through fairly quick. This is a water dog. The empathic one, or we often call them in the industry, we call them the four-legged spiritual teacher. They're extremely sensitive. They're very mystical, and they are our teacher. They're a pool of reflection for us. Their emotional default is fear, and this is not just fear. This is visceral fear. This is, oh my God, a car backfired. They break the leash out of your hand and they run down the road, not listening to the recall after you've had this dog 10 years and had a perfect recall. They're very smart. And they lose it. And so these dogs are often rehomed, same with the horses, because of fear. And this strange behavior that people kind of miss in their understanding of these animals. The season is winter. Their sense organ is ears and hearing, so loud noises are not good for these dogs. They really don't like it. I have a young one right now, Pretzel, and she's a water dog, and I won't tell you her whole story. It's in the book, and we're kind of running out of time, but she has taken her hearing to a whole different level. She asks me to play my flute every night about 8:50. She starts asking a little, she's very vocal dog. And she sings to every note I play on the flute. She keys in on all the notes. So her hearing is so cute that she's able to actually kind of sing along with me, howl sing, on different notes with the flute. So it's really fascinating. It's fun for all of us. When she's done, that's how she goes to bed. She just crashes and she goes to bed. So they're often all black or black, white, or brown. They have bone and joint issues, spinal issues, bladder, kidney issues. Bladder and kidney are their organs we deal with. Fertility and thyroid issues. So the spinal issues, the bladder meridian runs up and down the spine. If you go to my website, you can look for acupressure video, and there's a video of the Good Morning Spinal Wake Up on that, and that shows you kind of where those bladder points are. It's really good for all old dogs. I would highly recommend it. I wish I could have fit it in this presentation. But the spine is really important with these dogs. They often have long backs, and so they get spinal stresses. Their wants and needs are connection, trust, evolution of their human in all ways. They are truly here to teach us. And these are the dogs that are, fire dogs are connected to you, but then they're connected to everybody. These are the dogs that are connected to you, and they're just always knowing what you're feeling, what you're sensing, what are you doing, and they've got this tether, emotional tether with you. It's actually really beautiful. Their stressors are emotional insensitivity and dishonesty. So don't pretend you're feeling like some way you think you should be feeling when you're not, because they know it. They know if you're upset underneath and you're just trying to smile and, make a happy day. They know that. They recognize it. All dogs are extremely sensitive to us, but these are the ones that really, really are very sensitive. I think the fear has a lot to do with that. And that's another story. Chaos is bad for them, loud noises, energetic influences like pesticides, chemical shampoos, cleaners, and power lines. So these dogs get these sort of abnormal um, ailments, and the vets can't figure them out. Nobody can figure them out. I've had so many of these dogs in my practice because it's give it to that Liz gal and see if she can figure it out. And oftentimes they are one of these things. And they ask us to actually think out of the box. So think about that. If you think you have a water element dog and you're struggling with some ailment going on, or some supposition of an ailment, like something's not right, then really try to reach out and do some research and find out, ask people, go in forums, read, ask practitioners, various practitioners. Just think out of the box for them. That's their teaching for us. Response to stress is strange behavior, odd physical ailments, and panic. So that's a stressor. The physical ailments are a response to stress. Stress balancers, maintaining a deep and intimate connection with their human. That's super important. Emotional honesty, rest. They love rest. They like to sleep. Think of winter. It's a very restful time, and it's a time that we sleep more often. Elimination of energetic disruptions. Their supportive therapies are energy healing. They love that. Animal communicators love these dogs. They talk like crazy to animal communicators, send them all kinds of messages. Herbal, homeopathic, and Bach flower remedies. So notice these are all sort of energetic things that they really like. They love massage and they love, the acupressure and everything, but they do really well with these. So if you have something going on, let's say it hurts his paw or something, Try a homeopathic remedy like arnica for them, or, something like that, Bach flower remedies for emotional things. Our life lesson, do not give up on her. Look within yourself. There is a solid teaching she is sharing if you just listen deeply. So pay attention to these dogs. Here's our old water dog. Their stressors are chaos, lack of trust, weak hind end, bladder, and kidney issues. So when they start to they've got the lung back, they've got the bladder and kidney all interfacing with their spine and their nervous system. And those are stressors for them. So we try to keep those systems as strong as we can for as long as we can. Stress balancers are deep connection on all levels with their human, stay in that connection, energy healing and herbs, and quiet. These animals like quiet. Our old dog life lesson. Don't let fear take you off course of your soul's journey. Believe, follow your nose and your heart, and just like water, you will travel beyond your limits and support the world around you. Okay, so that's it for the PowerPoint, and I'll just quickly go through this last slide. There's a free elemental ebook that you can get. I have the link on here, but the Barbara is going to send out the link, or Lisa will send out the link to you in an email. And it's got excerpts from my book. It has slides and it's really fun. If you want to visit my website with the QR code, you can do that now with your phone. You just put your phone camera on and it'll bring up these little yellow lines and click, and it'll have my website on there. This is my book. It's available at booksellers worldwide, so it's all over the place. And if you order now, you'll have it by September 10th. Some of the retailers that are carrying it, including Inner Traditions, my publisher, they're sending them out early. So people are telling me, I got my book, and so if you do get one, please, please, please send me a picture of your dog in the book or you in the book or something. I love the dog in the book pictures. That would be great. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah.
So Elizabeth, we have two questions.
Okay.
The first one's from Tara, and it is this more breed specific? You were on the Wood slides at the time. So is Wood, for example, German Shepherd, or specific personalities of an individual dog?
Yeah, that's always the first question I get. And they are not breed specific. However, you will see, so particularly for the wood element, you will see more of the German Shepherd, Rottweilers, Belgian Malinois, those type of dogs. They often have a primary wood element. So it's sort of looking through the lens at the other side, the wrong side, because you can't pigeonhole the breeds into it, but you can say, oh, more of this breed is a wood element. The other elements are not, I find like that Jack Russells are often crazy because they're supposed to be lean and muscular, but Jack Russells are often very purposeful dogs and they are often medals. So like healers and border collies, super smart. Those can be either fire dogs or they're rarely earth dogs. Earth dogs are more like labs and golden retrievers and things. So it can work that way, but we can't pigeonhole it because we have so many dogs, and the element mixes for percentage. If you do your quizzes in the book, you'll see how much that dog has of each one just by answering some questions. And then you can kind of tell, you can look at the breed, and we have so many mixed breeds too, and that's the other thing that's makes it hard to quantify that. But yeah, so I hope that helps.
And there's a similar question, a follow-up from Heidi. She says, I have a rescue Shih Tzu, younger, and wonders if he's a fire dog or if that breed often has a certain personality.
I think that a lot of Shih Tzus, they're so darn cute, and they do like humans, and I think they can be a fire element. So what I would do is again take the quiz in the book and but look through all the stories and the information because there's so much more in the book. And see what relates to that dog. And you might see, so oftentimes we'll see like a Shih Tzu or any kind of dog that maybe is a fire element, but they also have a little bit of an earth element, like a secondary earth element. And it's interesting because they're different in so many ways, but if you look at the earth element, they love everybody too, and they love the touch and they will love the adoration. They're right next to each other seasonally, so they kind of can be overlapping a little bit in the elements. And I think the biggest thing is, what does your dog always look at this? What does your dog do when it gets stressed? So is your fire element, is it doing little panicky things? Like if you start to leave, does it yap, yap, mom, kind of thing? Or um is it calm in that situation? So, or if it goes to a dog park, I don't know, I don't do dog parks, but I know a lot of people do, so I always bring them up because that's the biggest time you can have social structures is in a dog park nowadays or an off-leash park. Um, and so how does your little Shih Tzu relate with other dogs? And what stresses it? So and how does it react? So that stress response is the key to knowing the primary element. And we always try to work mostly with the primary element because there's so many factors of organs and parts of body and things that it would take me probably a week to teach you on a video all day long. So I think that you just have to look for that stress response, and that tells you a lot. When I see, so horses are demonstrative with their stress responses, and dogs often maybe are not because they're so sort of humanized with us, and horses are humanized too, but they still have a bit of a feral quality to them, I think. And they, so a water element horse that gets frightened and that visceral fear, it breaks out. If it's in crossed eyes, it breaks everything and it just breaks and runs. And so it's, that water element. And the other thing about water elements I forgot to mention with you guys is they shapeshift. So water shapeshifts, right? The element shapeshifts. It can be ice, it can be mist, it can be rain, it can be salt water, it can be, a tsunami. I mean, it shapeshifts. So water elements shapeshift, and they show a lot of the other elements often. Like one day they'll be a fire element, and another day they'll be acting like a metal. And so that might throw you off, but don't let it, because just remember that the water element always shapeshifts. And so that's how you often know you have a water element. So, but if that water element breaks out of the cross ties or runs away because it hears a loud noise from you, then you know that you have that water element. That's probably the most demonstrative one that we see for stress reaction. So yeah, I hope that helped.
Yeah, and I think that's all of the questions. I want to thank everybody for attending, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your time. It was a great presentation, and I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else did.
Mm. Good, good. Well, thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions or you want to join our virtual launch party, just grab your ebook, and then I don't send out a lot of newsletters, so don't worry about that, but I will send a little bit more right now, and it'll tell you how to get on a virtual launch. And it'll just be, celebrating the book, and you guys can ask as many questions as you want. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks everybody again for attending, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, great. Thank you.